HO Talk Show. Truth is that Kimberly Sheffield is an insurance specialist amongst other things, and we're so glad to have her with us today. How are you today, Kim?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're more than welcome. And so I'm gonna let the cat out the bag, Kim, because I reached out to you and I was like, I think you'd be good to come on the show. And you were a little reluctant, but we had a conversation and you obliged, right? But what this is about is we had this conversation, her being an insurance specialist, okay, Max.
Yeah.
And me actually going through something that I know a lot of our people go through. Mm-hmm. And I see it on social media quite too often.
Okay.
Which is when tragedy strikes, it becomes apparent that we don't have our finances in order. Mm-hmm. And I know that happens to all people everywhere, but it hurts when I see our people go through it knowing that we have access to wealth build now. Mm-hmm. Like we really don't have the excuse anymore that like we didn't know. And, like we don't have the ability because there's so many ways to save and invest. Mm-hmm. And insurance being one of those, caveats. So we're going to dig into that, particularly when I see us posting the GoFundMes. And I being someone who, who recently had to go through a death in the family, thinking that based on our conversations and everything, you had everything straight.
Yeah, everything was straight.
Time came, it wasn't straight. Now, thank God that, that we have a family unit to where we were able to pull together, and everything was cool. But so many times I see our people are not able to do that. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a conversation that is much needed. I'm looking forward to it. But Kim, for those that don't know, and you were on with us just a couple months ago because you all did a financial workshop up in Madison County. And so just go ahead and reintroduce yourself real quick for those that don't know. Like, let them know who you are, yo experience in the field, how long you been at this, all that good stuff.
My name is Kimberly Sheffield. I've been in the insurance industry, the insurance game, for a long time. If I tell you the amount of years, I'd be telling my age, so I won't do that. I'm well versed in all lines of business. However, I specialize in life insurance and business insurance. So before we dig into crowdfunding, GoFundMe accounts, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that this is an incredibly sensitive topic.
Okay.
Why?
Well, because unfortunately, some folks just don't have the means. Mm-hmm. They're not prepared, so they have to turn to GoFundMe accounts. So 20 years ago, had GoFundMe accounts been readily available, I don't know if I'd be in the insurance industry. It was through the experience of losing a loved one, and you just went through it without life insurance, that triggered me to pursue an insurance career. Mm-hmm. So
nice. I appreciate that disclaimer because that is very true.
But how much of it comes down to choices? Like if you got all the new iPhones and all the new Jordans and, all these things that are your wants.
That's a big part. We've talked about that. That's a big part.
It is.
It don't take much to get a policy, right, Kim?
It doesn't. And the last time I was on the show, I said my Starbucks addiction would definitely fund probably a $2-3 million term life insurance policy. A lot of it does have to do. Hey, I survive on Starbucks. A lot of it does have to do with priorities. We're not leaving Verizon with the new iPhone 5000 without insurance. How many of us have Hulu subscriptions, Netflix subscriptions, Amazon Prime, you name it, we've got it. So when we're talking about life insurance and you're saying you can't afford it, but you've got every subscription on the planet, it's a priority thing.
It's a priority thing. Yeah. And Aaron, you are still on the line with us as well. Like, what's your take on this? Just the overview of how insurance plays a role when it comes to to the home dwelling, or when somebody looks at, potentially getting a property or even renting. And I know Kim can touch on this as well, but the importance of knowing that you have to protect your valuables. Like it's just not enough to get the valuables.
So number one, I first of all want to just thank the sister for coming on and all the outstanding work she's doing. You're talking to somebody, and I'm giving people a perspective. You're talking to somebody that doesn't have a big car note and pays $500 a month in term and permanent insurance.
Hey, Rachel, we remember hearing them windshield wipers.
Hey, look, you know what? Look, that's why. That's why.
Yeah, come on, bro. Hey, man, go ahead and get your Range Rover. You can afford it.
Man, but for me, it was important, and I am going to give a plug because the guy that just did my permanent policy, you guys know him, Sean Pendleton. Mm-hmm. So Sean did my permanent policy. Sean is a sharp brother. Yeah. He helped me out with that, but it's mandatory, and you got to make room for it. And I'm going to say something, and I would like the insurance reps. I need her to help me out because I might get some stones thrown on me. But not having it is extremely selfish because we always, our group, I'm talking about Black people, we're having an in-the-room barbershop conversation. We are always starting at a deficit. It can't go through generation of grandmama died with no money, mama died with no money, now you die with no money, and then you got this sharp young brother, young sister, young family coming up, and they got some ideas, and all they need is a little bit of capital. You might not have been able to do it in your lifetime, but leaving that person something at least gives that opportunity for that other person or grandchild or somebody that you don't even know to have a better opportunity. I always say as a man, if you are not thinking about people beyond you, you are extremely selfish.
Yeah. And it can cost you more in the end. Isn't that right, Kim?
Absolutely. So I think that you have to also know who you're responsible for in death, right? So in life, I'm responsible for me and my kid. But in death, I'm responsible for at least 10 people. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters, my child. So if something happens to them, and I haven't had a holistic conversation with them, whether they have life insurance or not, that burden falls back on me. Mm-hmm. And if I don't know if they have life insurance or not, then I'm at square one.
Yeah. That's spot on. You are absolutely right.
Can you be too young, like, to have the conversation or to get life insurance? Have the conversation too, but to get it. So I'm thinking about your 21-year-old, your 25-year-old.
So it's best to buy life insurance when you're young and you're healthy. Mm-hmm. So my sister just had a baby in December.
Okay.
As soon as she was 12 days old, she's got life insurance.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so with that particular policy, there's a rider endorsed called a GIO, which means that, God forbid, she's diagnosed with something crazy and no longer can get insurance. Every so often, she's able to increase that policy without going through underwriting. So it's best to buy young and while you're healthy.
Yeah, which makes sense, so they can't deny you and all that stuff. Real quick, just to further preface our conversation that we're going into, touch on the value other than the cash benefit in lieu of someone's death, because life insurance is even like an investment in some regards, right? Like there's other ways that just having a policy benefits you, correct?
Well, a lot of products have different benefits. So if you're looking at whole life policies or universal life policies, there's cash value, account value. Depending on how much you're investing into the policy, later on, you can take money out, you can borrow, you can withdraw your dividends. A lot of people look at me like I'm crazy at how much money I invest in my daughter's life insurance policies. But I want to ensure that when she gets to age 18, 19, 20, she will never have to go to a OneMain or a Landmark and get a small loan with a 26.9% interest rate.
That's what I'm getting at. Yep.
If she wants to go purchase a vehicle and needs a down payment, if she wants to purchase a property and needs $10,000 cash down, she can borrow against herself and pay herself back.
That's right.
So, depending on the product, depends on what type of return you can get, but life insurance definitely can be used as an investment vehicle. But again, depending on the product.
But what about the people who are, let's say our listenership, they 45 plus, they've been diagnosed with hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure. What do they do? Because to my understanding, we're telling them they're responsible for making sure everything is in order. But how do they make something in order when they really can't get good insurance?
There are products out there that don't ask for underwriting. Hypertension is primarily not going to disqualify you. Being overweight is not always going to disqualify you. Depending on the company and the product, there are insurance policies out there that insure folks with pre-existing conditions. You gotta have some resource. You've got to dig. You've got to find that company, and you've got to find the right product for you.
And that kind of goes back to what Max is saying, right? Like that's the importance as well of like the younger you get it, the better, right? So as as parents and stuff looking out for our kids, that's the importance, because you want to get it before it's going to cost you more, because if God forbid you have those health issues, right?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, life insurance, considering life insurance at such a young age, it's an afterthought. Like, why do I need it? And still got a lot of living left to do, and there's time to make that decision. And so that's why that was pretty much my premise for asking that question, is for people to understand why it's so significant to get it while they're younger.
Those tough conversations, right? That's what we're talking about, Kim. Like, what tips would you give on that? And we'll take a quick break, and we'll come right back and get to some of the points that I know you wanted to make in regards to insurance versus crowdfunding. But those tough conversations, what would be your advice to, like, even what Razor was saying, what Max was just saying? You got somebody in your family, in your life, and I'm asking you as a specialist, because I'm sure you have these conversations all the time. Like, it's a tough conversation, but you gotta have it, and you will appreciate it later.
Yeah. So take action, prepare. You gotta have the conversation. Mom, do you have life insurance? Dad, do you have life insurance? If no, this is my follow-up question. So, Dad, if something happens to you, how am I going to bury you? Right? We're all going to die. That's
fact of life.
We just don't know when.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do to prepare for this?
Right. Yes, indeed.
If I'm being completely transparent, I'm one of those kids who is afraid to ask her mother whether or not she has life insurance. And when you talk about it being a difficult conversation, I think, especially generationally, the response or the line of thinking is, you trying to rush me off, or you trying to figure out what you're going to get?
Ooh,
or
black people, boy.
Is none of your business?
The answer is yes. What we doing?
But here's what I'm going to say about that. Do you know how much money is in unclaimed life insurance benefits because folks don't know who their beneficiaries are? So why are we not having that conversation? Who's your beneficiary? Where's the roadmap when something happens? Where do I go find your paperwork, your policy? What insurance company is it with? Because at the end of the day, you're talking about grief and mourning. People should know where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
That's spot on.
It's 360, a hard conversation.
Yep, that's spot on. Yes, when we come back with life insurance specialist Kimberly Sheffield, as well as AA Ron, Razor, Miss Max, and yours truly, we're gonna dig in to the difference between that the GoFundMe accounts and the insurance and the why, like why you should choose one or the other. And even for those who don't know, talk a little bit about the costs, because I think a lot of people are not aware of how expensive it is to bury loved ones, like minimal, so we're gonna get into that.
Another question that I have, and we'll get back to it, but if you have any advice on if an individual has if an individual has multiple kids, how to divvy that up, when you reach X age, then you have access, or when you complete X, goal or whatever, let's say once you graduate from college, or once you turn 18, or once you're 35, like how does a person, make those type of decisions to have the best outcome? But Charles, you were going to go to break, right?
Yeah. But definitely hold that thought though, so we can get back to it. I am HO Family. Be right back with Kimberly Sheffield. We're in the booth in the building with insurance specialist Kimberly Sheffield, and appreciate y'all for listening. I mean, because we try to put y'all on game like we normally do, Miss Max. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's not the most entertaining. Sometimes Razor ain't saying nothing crazy. Sometimes we just got to give you the actual factual. But thank y'all for listening. Really hope you appreciate it. We appreciate y'all for being here. And so, Kimberly, when we went to break, a question did come in over line where the listener just wanted you to clarify. I think after this week we went into talking about health conditions, but just to make sure that we were clear, the listener asked, what is meant by being diagnosed with something crazy? Please elaborate clearly.
Something that would make you uninsurable. Some cancers are uninsurable. Of course, back in the day, you couldn't get in life insurance with HIV or AIDS. Nowadays, you can. You're just primarily rated. Something that would make you uninsurable. And unfortunately, there's new diagnoses that come out every day. So when I say crazy, something that would just make you uninsurable.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's kind of one of those evolution things, right? It's like because of modern medicine and things like that, people live longer with HIV than they did originally. So so it kind of would make sense. So yeah, so I guess with everything that people just need to kind of check with their provider to see what they offer and what it looks like. Different for different providers. So.
And my question was along the lines of allocating life insurance funds if you have multiple children and just how you do that. I have three kids who are under the age of 18. One just turned 19. One is I'm telling my age too, and one is 25 and in law school, and just trying to look at what I expect their life to go like, what, kind of trajectory they're on, how I allocate funds for the minors versus how I do it for the adult children, and who may go to college and who may not, and things like that. And so, yeah, that all can get a little confusing.
Yes, indeed.
Try to make the right decision.
Yes, indeed.
So I would say allocation is going to be based off of your preference, who you trust the most, who's going to do right by the money, who's going to take the money and split it up and take care of things. For the adult children, obviously, you probably want to allocate more because they're probably going to be taking care of your funeral and final expenses. But, that's a tricky question because you pass away and then you've got Jane, Jessica, and Johnny. Why did I get 50,000 and you gave her 60,000? So you also got to be mindful of that as well. But I always say an allocation, you leave the most to the person you trust is going to do right by it.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. So let's make it uncomfortable again.
Oh boy.
Raise on the line.
So you made a statement about the current amount of GoFundMe accounts for funeral expenses. So break that down to me. Is there, if the money's being paid from a GoFundMe, are funeral homes changing the price based on that, or clarify? Make sure I understood your statement correctly.
So I think what I sent you was the current amount of GoFundMe accounts that are active for funeral and final expense.
Gotcha. Okay,
and to be fair, Charles, that number, in my opinion, has actually reduced significantly. I think I looked at it a couple of years ago and it was a lot larger. So it's not as bad as it used to be, but 22,000 accounts is still a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Aaron, you were going to chime in?
Yeah, I was also going to say that the GoFundMe accounts tend to go into a larger issue that we don't want to talk about a lot because there's a little shame, but a lot of our families are not in good financial positions when it comes in terms to wealth or having access to liquidity. And that is something that a lot of people don't like to talk about because that's basically where you are financially right now. How many people actually, without an insurance policy, they say most American families, forget about Black people, they say most American families don't have access for a $1,000 emergency, let alone somebody passes away and now you got to figure out how to find 15 grand and you don't have a life insurance policy. So I just think that the life insurance and the GoFundMe is a broader, it's highlighting a broader problem within society of people don't have resources. Forget about just everyday living, but now you have a catastrophe that just happens in your life and in your family. And for us, I think I should have clarified this before, but when I make statements and I'm talking about our group, that doesn't mean that another group is doing better or has something more together or things of that nature. What happens in America is that, if America catches a cold, we get a fever just because of our circumstances. So we have to be very aware of how financially susceptible we are to these things happening in our families due to health, racism, all these different things. We have to be very conscious about where we are. And that, I think, Charles, that's the hard part, because people don't want to be honest about what has really happened. I mean, full transparency, my homie had the conversation with me because he was like, dude, you have resources. You don't have a trust set up. You don't have this. And he said, here's the honest conversation that I know you don't want to have. Your parents are getting old and you are going to be the only beneficiary. Do you have any idea what their plans are? So then I had to have that conversation. But the best thing that happened was me talking about it. They went down to the bank. They got their trust done. They did everything. So now it's all out of the way. Everybody knows exactly what's happening. But I'd rather be uncomfortable for 5 minutes.
Right.
Seriously, I'd rather be uncomfortable for 5 minutes than after. I mean, and I want the insurance lady to talk about, because I know the sister knows. God forbid somebody dies. But listen, a lot of people die with debt, problems, and issues that you are now responsible for. If anybody on this call ever heard of something called probate and have a property stuck in probate and you have no idea who that house goes to, Charles, you and I have had conversations about this kind of stuff.
For sure.
This is real, and not addressing it is doing a disservice to your entire family.
Shoot, I'm going through it right now. My mom and dad left everything in my name except for the house. And I had to prove who I was, that they didn't have any other heirs, because they looked at it like, okay, why would they leave you everything except for your name on the deed? Right. And it had to do with the bad relationship I had with my kid's mother. Like, they were from the old school, like, they're going to try to take everything from you type of thing. So at the end of the day, you're left with, okay, a substantial bill, not just getting the thing, because when you can't prove who you are, the bills still keep coming in. So then when you do prove who you are, then you have this lump sum that you have to come up with in order to take over the property. So I mean, I am one of the ones that y'all are speaking of that is going through hell and high water to try to make sure I retain everything that my parents worked so hard to leave. But their old way of thinking also gave me circumstances that I didn't want to have to go through.
Gotcha. And you know what else? Like this is relatable even to the mentoring and volunteering conversation that we just had, because a lot of times it's about like connecting folks to the right resource, and sometimes people don't realize that it's simpler than they may think, they may believe. And I know parts of our conversation today, some of it goes deep, some of it goes into the into the logistics and terminology that people may not be familiar with, but at the same time, I think Kim has been very clear. Like, there's so many alternatives. Like, there's options. You know what I mean? And it's more aware of changing that conversation. You know what I mean? Even again, like when y'all were talking about, if all we talk about is basketball and that's all we glorify, that's probably what the kids are going to be drawn to, right? So it's like, as a people in the community, like, these are the conversations. Like that has to start being normal. Like, raised, like, these are the barbershop talks. And shouts out to the barbershops that do have real constructive talks. But Kim, speaking of that though, what are alternatives to crowdfunding for funeral and final expenses? For instance, if someone passes and then they may find out that they don't have all the insurance and whatnot, that person may not have had the policy whatnot that they needed. Is crowdfunding still their only option?
Well,
how does that even work? Is it the money going directly to the funeral home?
Wait a minute. I don't think I understood your question. Say that again.
Yeah. So I was wondering about, are there alternatives?
Absolutely.
If someone,
So first and foremost, the best option is always going to be life insurance. And again, there are companies and products out there that will still insure you if you've got pre-existing conditions or if you've got some challenges in your medical history. Obviously, if you can't get life insurance, you can prepay for your funeral, right? If you can't prepay for your funeral, start putting a little bit of money away, $50 a check or $50 a month. And then if you can't do any of that, have a conversation with your next of kin or your loved one and just give them a reminder. I don't have life insurance. I'm not prepared for this. That way, that family member can take action and do something, right. Whether it's paying your premiums, whether it's putting away money for you, because at the end of the day, they're responsible now. If something happens to you without life insurance or without a prepaid funeral, now I'm responsible. So somebody's got to do something. And so it's advantageous for you to let folks know where you're at so that at minimum they can do something, if that makes sense.
That's right. Hey, Charles, can I reiterate something that Kim just said that I didn't even think about? If you have an elderly parent, and because I'm a mortgage banker, I talk to people a lot about finances, but Kim just said something really powerful. If you have an elderly parent, you need to ask the question, or have you been paying your life insurance premiums? Like, I know that's really, really simple, but if you found out that somebody was not going to get insurance because they decided to stop, or they ran into a financial emergency and they couldn't pay $75 a month, I think that you, like, logically, Kim, am I missing something? You should be like, oh, mama, daddy, uncle, I got you. But that means that there has to be a level of transparency and intimacy in having those conversations, like, mom, dad, hey, it's rough right now. I'm about to be delinquent. You know what? I'm going to help you take care of that. Because forget about just the insurance money. That money could go towards grandchildren, different resources, debt, things of that nature, whatever. Because a lot of times what people don't talk about, and I know Kim has seen this, people die and they say, oh, I died and you left the house. Okay, but you also got 5 liens on this property, or you got or you have debts, or you have judgments or things of that nature that sometimes those items can be kind of tricky. So it's just a lot of circumstances that people are not thinking about. But man, talk to your mom or your dad or whoever it is about making sure you're paying your premiums on time. And if you can't pay it and you got the means, I can pay it for you so we can make sure we keep you on track. That's super powerful, Kim.
Yeah, and something else, Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have to have your coverage for, let's say, 6 months, X amount of time for it to pay out the full amount?
It depends on the product, right?
I ran into that, though.
So... Again, it depends on the product. I purchased a life insurance policy today, okay? And I get involved in an accident, a head-on collision, and pass away. The insurance company shouldn't have a reason to contest. You died from an accident. But let's say I purchased this policy today, and 2 days later or 2 weeks later, I die from a heart attack. And then they have the ability to contest, or they want to see medical records now, and they see that I've had a heart condition for 10 years that I didn't disclose. They can contest that now. But primarily, if you purchase life insurance and something tragic happens, an accident,
if it's an accident,
they're not going to contest it. But if it's a medical issue where they feel like you hadn't said everything that you were supposed to say in the application process, they can contest it. But normally it's a 2-year contestability phase.
Okay.
Hey, Charles, can I ask Kim a question?
Read them policies, people. Go ahead.
Oh, so Kim, can you, and I know this is probably a long conversation, but can you just go into talking to people or some of our listeners about specifically, if you don't have anything like a basic term policy, like in the power of just having like a basic term policy for some people, because I know a lot of people out there, they see the universal this, and this, but the basics of just having a term policy and how that can help them if you're an advocate for it.
Something's better than nothing.
I'm an advocate for all types of life insurance. I don't care what you have, just have it, and at minimum be able to take care of your funeral and final expenses. At minimum, that's your responsibility. You know, in the state of Virginia, or most states, you have to have a minimum liability on your auto insurance. I don't understand why it is not mandatory to have some type of life insurance, right? Because we're all going to die, and then it's a burden, it's an expense. So at minimum, have enough insurance to take care of your funeral and final expenses. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Then term insurance is always going to be cheaper than permanent insurance. So last time I was on the show, I talked about my Starbucks addiction, and I keep going back to that because we all have our thing. $30 a month, $20 a month, you would be surprised what that can buy you in life insurance and term insurance.
Right.
And it's specified. Life insurance should be personalized. What Charles needs is going to be different than Max. Right. Max needs is going to be different than mine. And everybody wants to cover different things. For me, I want to ensure that my daughter's lifestyle doesn't change. I want to ensure that she's got a nest egg for money if I'm not here to help her pay for college. So term insurance, I'm a huge advocate for term insurance because for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, you can buy hundreds of thousands of dollars for cheap. Yeah. Now, it's important for you to have a relationship with your insurance agent or your insurance company. You should revisit your life insurance at least once a year because things change.
Right.
So one of the things that I tell customers is this. Recently, my sister reached out to me and said, hey, I need to buy a car. Can you co-sign? I'm big sister. Absolutely. I'll co-sign. But with that co-signature, we're going to buy a 10-year term policy for $50,000 because if something happens to you, now I'm left with this car loan. So it's a million different conversations that we don't think about having when it comes to life insurance. It's not just about death. It's not just about dying. It's about the big picture. How many people rely on your income?
Yep.
How did we get so far behind in this conversation? How do we not understand the importance of the way that you explained it?
Yeah. I mean, that's cultural, right? That's cultural. It's like that's the wealth divide. Like I feel like a lot of wealthy people understand policies. Like I think, Razor, that we get that for so long we looked at wealth building and money management and stuff as a white thing or something that was unattainable. And I think it's just recent decades to where as a people, we're seeing the success in each other. And then once you get that little bit of knowledge, then you be like, man, it's easier than I thought. You know what I mean?
But Charles, talking about our people in general, we've created so many things that this earth uses. Stoplights, cell phone, you name it. We thirst for knowledge. It's kind of hard for me to believe that there's something that benefits our life in the totality that young lady just explained. And for so many years, we just went blind to it. Because to my understanding, Black insurance sometimes costs more than other nationalities' insurance because we're at risk, we die early. Police department, you know what I'm saying? It's a multitude of different things that take us out.
Yeah. Now, Kim, can you touch on that? Because that's true in so many industries, and Aaron can maybe say something about it too within his market. But do you see that's the redlining, so to speak, to where you have a Black family or Black person, say white family, white person, and it seems like the rates are like banks are looking at someone's socioeconomic status?
I'm not really privy to underwriting guidelines, and I think on purpose and in purpose I'm not. But I think we all know the answer to that. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be politically correct.
You ain't got to do it, Kim. I got you. It definitely happens. It definitely happens.
It's hard for us to do anything.
Yeah. Remember, you representing yourself. You ain't representing the brand, so you good.
But I still got to be careful.
Yeah.
Something else that I was thinking about, and these 2 points may not be related, but earlier this year, the city's sheriff department presented a report that said there was some 18 to 24 unclaimed bodies because they processed that within the city of Charlottesville in the past year.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, your thoughts go to other things that may be the cause for those bodies to have been unclaimed. But wouldn't it be sad if it was because families couldn't afford burial costs?
Extremely sad.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
That's wild. Y'all
see what's happening in Mississippi, right? You see they found out that there was a grave behind the prison and families didn't know. Like some were reported missing, ended up being like when they died, the families weren't notified.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
It's happening.
It's happening here in Virginia too.
Yeah, on different levels, different places. Yeah. But Kim, before we let you go though, we talked about a lot, but like just touch on the cost though, because I'm sure a lot of people may think, and Razor, I'm curious what you think about. Well, I'll just stash the money. Like I'll just keep my brown paper bag. I'll put it in the mattress or whatnot. But they don't understand the cost that's actually incurred. Can you touch on that? The cost associated with funeral and final expenses, just just on average. So somebody who's never been through this, so they don't get that sticker shock when they see it.
It's expensive to die. It is truly expensive to die. I haven't looked at these numbers recently, but if you look at an invoice from a funeral home, some funeral homes charge $500 just to pick up the body.
Just to pick it up.
Then you look at embalming, what it costs to do that. I know some folks that bypassed embalming and did cremation just to save money. It's expensive. The average funeral can be anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000, depending on your choices. And some burial cemeteries now require vaults and different things. So it's expensive.
I buried my mom and dad. Dad was $13,000. Mom's was like $15,000. And they want their money. If you late on payments, they come after you just like it's a car. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do besides garnish you, but it's extremely expensive. And part of the problem is when you are like doing your last goodbyes, you want them to have the best casket. You want it to have the best material in front of it. You got the tombstone. You have all these things that these emotions come into play that your family can't afford. But you want to at least say that I gave them a good home going.
Right. That's deep. Man, thank y'all for this conversation though. For sure. So Kim, as we let you go, you mentioned something. I want to make sure people can reach out to you if they would, if they want to work with you. And based on the comments and stuff and the viewers online, people have appreciated this conversation. So thank you for joining us. But before you give your business contact info, you mentioned TAP. I heard you mention that a couple of times, and you said take action, prepare.
Have those hard conversations. Talk to your family. Talk to your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. That way, if they can't take action, you can take action. I again had GoFundMe's and crowdfunding's been available 20 years ago. I know for a fact we would have had to use it, or we would have chosen that. I want to see our people do better.
Yes.
And really, a lot of times it just comes down to conversations and utilizing the resources. You scroll through Instagram, there's so much content about life insurance. Reach out to local folks and get acclimated.
Kim, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we kind of from the same area, so you know where I'm going with this once I start talking. There were a few gentlemen back in the day that used to grab every wino that was out there and put a life insurance policy on them, and then buy them a bottle every day. What you laughing for, Charles? So when it comes to people that say, okay, I want to help this person out, but I'll take care of them now, but I'm going to put a life insurance policy on them so that I benefit later on. Is that still legal?
Troy.
He just asked if it's legal. I just yes or no.
That's all.
When you purchase life insurance on somebody, you are supposed to have insurable interest. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the example I gave with my sister co-signing for her vehicle, I now have insurable interest to her life because we now have a loan together. Mm-hmm. That person, you know, I don't know how he did that, or, you know,
you good.
But I will say this, that particular person saved a lot of families' lives.
Absolutely.
Including mine. So I you know, as crazy as it was, he still took care of them.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
Now we don't know what he benefited from it, but you know, he took care of those folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what about people that work for you?
What was that?
Like, let's say, for instance, let's go to the business side, because you said you do life insurance, you do business insurance. Mm-hmm. If my staff, do I have a right to put in life insurance on my staff?
What insurable interest do you have on your staff?
My company can't operate if they are not there, especially if I've invested training and, you know, different things.
Yeah,
they can't be replaced like overnight. Am I allowed to put insurance on them?
It's a gray area there, Troy.
I don't mind.
Now you can have something called key man insurance. So let's say me and you open up a bakery, and you've put in 50%, I've put in 50%. I have insurable interest to have life insurance on you because we co-own that business together. Employees, no.
Okay.
I think as an employer, it's beneficial for you to offer life insurance to your team, just because those are benefits people need. And if you really talk to people, a lot of people rely solely on the life insurance they get through their employer, but they don't think about if I leave jobs, change jobs, or retire, what happens then? You don't have a policy that you own. So let's say your company decides next open enrollment or next benefit time, they're not going to offer life insurance anymore. Now you've been diagnosed with this, and this, and you're uninsurable because you don't own something on yourself. You've relied solely on that policy through your employer.
Does the person have to sign off on it? Like, for me to insure you, do you have to sign off on that? So no matter the relationship, if it's two adults and you're not my
because I have to consent to you.
Right. Okay.
Kim, you kind of confused me. You just used the word uninsurable. But earlier you said do the homework and dig and find one that fits you.
There are policies for folks that have challenges in their medical history.
Okay.
A lot of folks think that because I'm overweight and I have high blood pressure and I'm diabetic and this and this and this, that I'm uninsurable. There are products that will allow you to get some life insurance. It's not going to be huge policies, but there are products out there. Now, there are certain things that are uninsurable.
Like what?
You know, I haven't looked at my underwriting in a while to see what is uninsurable, but there are definitely things that you can't get life insurance being diagnosed with.
And I think people need to understand, just because you're denied by one company, though, there could be another company you should try to get a quote from. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Hey, Kim, I had one question before she left.
Okay.
So Kim, have they, obviously I just got a recent insurance policy. Have they introduced vaping into the conversation for a lot of young people? Because obviously, you know, when people get quotes, it's non-tobacco, things of that nature. My brain just said, you know what? Vaping is now becoming a thing, but we don't have enough evidence on the negative impacts it's going to have on people's health in the future. Has that been introduced from what you've seen, the underwriting, or not yet?
Vaping is considered tobacco use. So if you vape, you're a tobacco user.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
People
marijuana as well.
Boy. You're not uninsurable with tobacco use anymore. I mean, marijuana use anymore. So it would classify you as a tobacco user.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With some insurance companies. Now, not all insurance companies view things the same, but
Right.
it would still consider you a smoker.
Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Kim, how can the folks reach you?
I'm readily available on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me. They can find you.
All right. Good enough. Hey, because we may have drummed up some business for you. Hopefully.
Hey, listen, if it doesn't have to be with me, but get it, have the conversation, get it done.
Gotcha. Company name is your name, Kim Sheffield?
Just find me on Facebook, Instagram, Kimberly Sheffield.
Okay.
That's right. The one, the only.
The one and only.
Thank you for joining us. Good information, great information, and family. Stay tuned. We're gonna be right back. Since we got AA Ron in the building, he came equipped with the Ass Max. Dun, dun, dun. But but family, stay tuned. Kim, great seeing you as always. Take care. Be safe.
Thanks for having me.
Daddy, what's a will?
IMHO Talk Show.